Okay, page 4. Holy moly, we got a lot. GCW. A faction base can no longer be placed where there are already 3 faction bases within 600 meters. So you can't have a field full of faction bases. You can only have 3 bases within 600 meters. All faction bases now have stronger defenders, more in line with lives, so the AI that spawns outside of a faction base has been buffed. Faction bases should no longer bug out and prevent entry after the turrets are destroyed. A single defense can now be donated to a PvP faction base during each vulnerability. So, alright, real quick, I don't have a video about faction bases yet, but this is definitely going to make me, or force me to make one. So, base busting is something that, there really wasn't a huge point to it prior to this, but now it's definitely going to be a thing, and it should actually spark some faction PvP on the server, which should be cool. But I wanted to point this out because now, if you are attacking a base in PvP, it is possible for the defenders to donate 1 and only 1 extra defense during the vulnerability timer. So that's good that, like, somebody who's sitting in a base might have an inventory of like 80 block turrets cannot continue to place block turrets while you're trying to get into the base. They can only place 1 and that's it. So that's really good. PvE faction bases can no longer have any defenses donated or removed via the HQ terminal. So PvE bases are going to be much easier to take out, as they should be. A player must now remain at a faction base's HQ terminal for 60 seconds in order to shut down a base destruction sequence. So in order to abort the destruction sequence, a player has to stand at the terminal for 60 seconds. I don't know if they could do that while in combat or not, but we're going to find out. Turrets now attack faster. Each turret type has different damage types. So you have the block turret, the tower turret, and the dish turret, and now each of them deal different types of damage. Fix the armor rating and resists of some turret types. Turrets can now attack non-player targets, so creatures from creature handlers can be attacked, or droids. Auto-fire turrets will no longer focus fire on a single target, but will instead change targets periodically. That'll definitely keep things interesting. Faction mobs should no longer ever attack their own faction factions turrets. That's good. No more traitors. All GCW stronghold cities should now have mobs of the appropriate faction spawning in them. GCW planetary control is now checked and adjusted periodically rather than changing on the fly. Added factional spawns to non-stronghold, non-player cities on Corellia, Naboo, and Tatooine. The controlling faction is checked when spawning and respawning to determine which side's mobs to spawn. This is the planetary control game, essentially, which means depending on which faction has more bases on the planet will determine which faction's mobs spawn in non-player cities. So that stormtrooper that stands at the steps to the Mos Eisley Cantina, if the rebels go around Tatooine and destroy a bunch of Imperial bases and then place a bunch of rebel bases, that'll be a rebel trooper instead of a stormtrooper. Is that, like the coolest thing ever? No, but it's an interesting dynamic to the game. It's actually like you feel like your actions are impacting the game world, and that's important in a game like this. What else? Faction recruiters now have conversation options to check the status of the GCW on their planet, so you can talk to the recruiter and see who's winning. Added field faction status change. So, I think the command is just /PVP, but I'll have to check it and let you know. But this means you don't have to go to your recruiter anymore to go from on leave to combatant to special forces or back to combatant. I believe you just type /PVP. It'll take you 30 seconds to move to a higher level, so it'll take you 30 seconds to go from on leave to combatant and 30 seconds to go from combatant to special forces. And I believe it takes you 5 minutes to go from special forces back to combatant, and you cannot go from combatant back to on leave without talking to a recruiter. Obviously, if you type /PVP, it's going to want you to go up to special forces, not down to on leave. So, but that's really cool that you do not have to go back to a recruiter for that. Attacking an opposing player's vehicle will now cause a TEF, or temporary enemy flag. I'm gonna have to do a video on TES at some point because I'm not I wanted to highlight this, but I'm not sure how this works, because I didn't think you shouldn't be able to attack an opposing player's video or vehicle without... I guess the TEF just prevents you from going into houses. I don't know. We'll have to look that up and see. If anyone knows exactly what that means or what impact that has, post a comment. I'm interested to see how TEFs are working on Basilisk. Alright, so real quick, professions, let's run through these. Artisan fixed a bug with experimentation success calculations, which caused experimentation results to always be better than they should be. Yeah, experimenting got nerfed. Your experiments are more likely to fail now than previously. Survey tools now only have pre-CU range options. Your survey tools were also nerfed. So before, a master surveyor, if you have surveying 1 through 4, you could set your survey device to basically scan resources at like 1,024 meters. Or, yeah, like a kilometer. You can no longer choose that, and you can no longer choose 512 meters. I think 256 meters is the cap on surveying now, which sucks. But, yeah. I got nothing good to say about that. Bioengineer. Adjusting a bioengineered pet's stats will now properly recalculate based on the adult level instead of the current level. And fixed stun resist not being passed on to pets during crafting. It's good. It sounds good. I've never done bioengineer, so I'm not sure exactly how good that is, but it sounds good. Page 5. Bounty Hunter. Increase the damage and wounds caused by a torso shot's fire dot. Again, fire dot's got buffed. It's going to do more damage. Fast Blast now hits all 3 pools and has a high accuracy bonus. Another buff for bounty hunters. NPC bounty mission success failure is now determined by who gets loot rights rather than who gets the killing blow. So if you're doing bounty hunter missions with a friend in a group, and your friend is the guy that kills your bounty hunter target, previously, since your friend got the killing blow, you would fail the mission. But now, as long as you're grouped, and your group gets the loot rights, doesn't matter, you win. Brawler. Fix the animation of one-handed and two-handed lunge 2 attacks. More animation fixes. All 4 creature handler things sound very important. Change the taming process to be more like live. I wish I was a little bit more specific. Creature handling XP is now awarded separately for each pet instead of in one lump. Change the creature training success formula to be more forgiving to lower skilled creature handlers, so it's going to be easier for people to tame creatures. And, very, very important, the creature taming bonus skill mod on Cs is no longer disabled. So if you have a clothing attachment or an armor attachment with creature taming bonus, you can actually use that now. It's no longer disabled, which means it's enabled, which means they work. That's pretty cool. Droid Engineer. Players can now download the waypoint from a droid with a Merchant Barker module installed. So a Barker module, you might have seen them. I've seen them a lot in Mos Eisley and Coronet. They're actually, one in Theed too, where you can, a Droid Engineer can program, or could put a Barker module in a droid, and then the droid owner can program the module to make the droid say something into spatial every so often. Well, with this, if they're using that droid as like an advertisement for a shop or a vendor or something, they can actually type in like a waypoint coordinates into the module, and then somebody can walk over to that droid, use the radio menu on the droid, and actually download the waypoint to their datapad without having to type the waypoint in themselves. Kind of cool. Entertainer. Adjusted action drain amounts for entertaining and flourishing. Again, I wish this was more specific. It doesn't say if they've increased the drain amounts or decreased. But all of you with entertainers might want to check your macros and make sure that, if you're running like some sort of buff macro, that you don't drain yourself out of action after Publish A goes live. It is now possible to listen and watch at the same time regardless of which action you perform first. Previously, if you were listening to one entertainer and watching another one to get both entertainer buffs at the same time, you would need to listen before watching, otherwise it would not work. Now it doesn't matter. Fix the bug that caused buffs to not be given reliably. Oh, yes! Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Band Flourish now only gives XP to the one who uses the command and not to the entire band. This is probably going to slow down a lot of people that are grinding Entertainer, because I believe getting into like an entertainer group and just everybody using /band flourish used to just grant XP to everybody, but now it only grants it to the person that uses it. Image designer. We think we fixed the issue where players could end up bald after an image design session. Please report if it still happens. They think they fixed it. Marksman, the point blank area 1 skill is now an area of effect rather than a cone effect. This is actually really important because it was very difficult. Marksman did not, you don't get a lot of area effect, you don't get any area effect abilities until much later in your elite profession. So now, and I think point blank area 1 is a skill that novice marksmen get. So novice marksmen now have a very basic area of effect ability that will hit everybody in a circle around them and not just in, you know, an area in front of them. Excuse me. Medic, Doctor, Combat Medic. All medical commands with a mind cost should now have the cost adjusted based on the player's focus. This is important because I've noticed that regardless of how many points I have in focus, every time I heal somebody or every time I buff somebody, the mind cost for that action was always the same. Now it's going to actually be affected by how high your focus is, which is cool. Revived players will now have a 60-second grogginess debuff. I don't know what the grogginess debuff is, but it's good to know that for 60 seconds after you're revived, you're probably not going to perform as well as you were prior to dying. Page 6. Not that many. Merchant. Vendor add barking is now functional. There you go. So your vendors can add bark as well. It is once again possible to transfer a structure containing a vendor. This is very important because many merchants will have multiple houses or multiple characters that own houses, and if they have vendors in them and they want to transfer ownership of a house from one character to another, previously they would have to remove all the items on the vendor and delete the vendor, transfer the house, put the vendor back, and restock the vendor. Now they don't have to do that. Save a lot of headache. Ranger Scout. Mobs no longer continuously check against mask, scent, or camo. If a player succeeds once, the mob won't notice them as long as they stay within range. That's really cool, and also really helpful to bioengineers that are trying to DNA sample, because as long as they win that, or as long as they succeed that first mask scent roll, they won't have to worry about continuously, you know, staying hidden. The resource concentration thresholds for each harvest adjustment, skinny, fat, etc., have been changed. All steps above skinny should now be more prevalent. That's really important. A lot of people didn't realize that when you harvest a creature, you'll notice that it'll say like how much of a resource you get, and then it'll say the creature was scrawny and unhealthy, or the creature was healthy and fat, or the creature was of medium size, or whatever. That is determined by where you are. Similarly to how artisan resources spawn in like nodes around the planet, it's the same thing. You just can't. There's no way to survey for it. So if you knew. And the nodes will move, just like the artisan resources do. But if you knew where, like, a fat zone was, you could literally drag a creature into the fat zone, kill it, and it will produce more resources than if you killed it in a skinny zone. But now, after this published, you'll have more prevalent larger size creature zones. So, because most of the time when you kill them, it's like scrawny and unhealthy. So now, maybe you won't see that quite as often. Smuggler. Adjusted the amount of XP granted from most types of slices. I know they doubled the amount of XP that you get from slicing locked containers. Prior to Publish 8, you would have to slice, I think, 40 locked containers to get Slicing 2, or Slicing 1, or the first slicing skill, I think. Now you only need to slice 20, which is really important because locked containers go for anywhere from like 20,000 to 40,000 credits each on Basilisk, so it was really expensive to grind a smuggler. Now it's only half of really expensive. And also the Feign Death skill is now functional, so smugglers got an ability that they could use to actually feign, like, they would just fall on the ground and pretend to be dead, and it would get them out of combat against certain creatures. But it wasn't working on Basilisk, and now it does, which is kind of funny. Tailor. Newly crafted crafting aprons can now be worn by Wookiees and Ithorians. Yay! Since Publish 8, crafting aprons are no longer racist. I do want to point out, though, that it says newly crafted crafting aprons, which means any that you made prior to Publish 8 will still be racist. Items and loot. Newly crafted or looted personal shield generators now have lightsaber resistance. Again, newly crafted, so any that you've got from before is not going to have that. Looted Janta or Donkua knives now always have their static dot. So Janta, excuse me again, the stone Janta knife that you would get by hunting Janta mobs on Dantooine now has a dot. Looted bounty hunter armor now always has its default color scheme. That's kind of sad. So now, if you kill Black Sun and you loot the bounty hunter armor, which is that component used in Mandalorian armor, the bounty hunter armor will always be a base color of gray with blue detail instead of being randomly colored. It's kind of disappointing, but ultimately not a huge deal. Vehicles will now decay over time as long as they are called. The decay rate is dependent on the type of vehicle. This one's kind of interesting. So now, well, before, whenever you summoned your vehicle, it would take a chunk of damage. Now, every so often, as long as your vehicle is in the world, it's going to take a small portion of damage just from sitting there. It's kind of weird, but I guess it makes sense because it's like the vehicle's running. I don't know. And the decay rate is dependent on the vehicle type. I think that means swoops are going to decay faster, speeder bikes will decay a little bit less, and then the land speeders won't decay nearly as much. But, whatever. Removed the Night Sister arm guard from the loot and added it to it and the Rebel Endor helmet as options to the veteran rewards system. Which, by the way, veteran rewards have been re-enabled, and yes, that includes anti-decay kits. So, celebrate for that. But this is an interesting move. So, yes, back in Live, the Night Sister arm guard was removed from the loot tables because it was technically... They did not actually intend for it to be in the loot tables in the first place. So they decided to make it a vet reward on the emulator, which I guess... I'm not sure if that's going to increase or decrease its value, to be honest with you. It'll probably increase it. Because before, you could AFK farm them. They're very rare drops off of Night Sisters, but now they're even more rare because you can only get them as vet rewards. I don't know. I think that might actually increase their value. And you could get the Rebel Endor helmet, which is pretty cool. With Publish 7, we made the chance for exceptional and legendary item loot to be modified by the level of the mob. That modifier's effect has been reduced, so now exceptional and legendary items, which I think were the items that had yellow names, the chance of getting those is less than before. Page 7, we're almost done. Pets, added guard command, added ranged attack command, and added befriend command. So pets get a lot more functionality. Newly tamed Humbabas and Savage Humbabas can now be trained as a mount. Again, stress the newly tamed, so if you already have a Humbaba or a Savage Humbaba, that one will not be able to be trained as a mount. Pets are now considered valid targets for AI threat evaluations. This should allow pets to tank if they are not out-damaged. That's really cool, especially for creature handlers. Droid medical bonuses are now removed from the owner if the droid dies, is incapacitated, runs out of power, or is out of range. So this means y'all better get some droid batteries for your medical droids, especially you AFK doctors, because if your medical droid reaches 0% battery, you can't use it anymore to buff or to craft or any of that. So yeah. The gallop cooldown is now tied to the mount and not the rider. That's really cool because if you didn't already know, creature mounts, while you're riding a creature mount, there's a /gallop command that's basically like a burst run for your pet. But before, the /gallop command was kind of like a global cooldown, just like a regular ability. Now, /gallop is independent for each pet. So if you have 5 pets that you can ride, you can gallop 5 times before the first cooldown refreshes. Group or guild, change the group. Alright, okay. I'm gonna take a step back, because this is big. Alright, here we go. Changed the group level formula. Each individual member now has a more significant impact on the final level instead of 90% plus of it being decided by the highest level member. What does this mean? Well, you know how you would usually, when you wanted to do missions, you would join a solo group with like a Rancor or an ATST in it, because since the difficulty of the missions was based on the strength of the highest level member in the group, and that Rancor or ATST was way higher level than any other player. Well, it doesn't work quite like that anymore. It's more or less based on the overall strength of the group and less on the individual strength. But it gets worse. Looted credits are now split among nearby group members. That's, not a huge deal. Out-of-range group members will now properly display their planet or a directional arrow pointing in their direction. That's really good. A guild leader can now claim ownership of a guild hall owned by an inactive member, one that hasn't logged in for more than 28 days. I guess that's useful. Here we go. Oh wait, no, this isn't it. Added guild elections. These can be manually enabled by a guild leader and will also trigger automatically during a guild's weekly update if it is an inactive leader or no leader. Okay, wait. So yeah, the big things on the last page. Here we go. Page 8. Missions. Double the XP reward for completion of a bounty mission. That's really good. Bounty hunter mission terminals can no longer be sliced. That's kind of bad. But, I mean, if they doubled the XP reward, so I think most... No. So you're not going to get as much money, but you're going to get twice the XP. Yeah. I guess bounty hunters could save on skill points now. They don't have to go smuggler. So they could pick up some other skills. Adjusted which mobs are attached to some destroy missions, especially NPC ones, so that the range of levels of the mobs are not as wide. I think that's good, especially for low-level players, because if it was possible for a low-level player to pick up 2 missions from the same terminal and get completely wrecked by one while completely destroying the other. So this should prevent that from happening. Okay, so I grouped these together because this is the big one. Change the formula for calculating the credit rewards of destroy missions. Being in a group no longer gives a significant boost, but the new baseline is higher than what payouts were while in a group before. A player's or a group's level now has a small impact on the max potential payout. Higher level groups can see higher paying missions. So solo groups aren't necessarily as important as they were before. But here's what really puts the nail in the coffin for solo groups. Fixed group mission payouts to function as they did at 14.1. The payout is divided by the number of total players instead of only by the number of players in range. A player must be in range to receive their portion. That means if you're in a group with 19 other players, so there's 20 of you, and you do a 20,000 credit mission and you're the only player around, you still only get 1,000 credits for completing that mission. And the other 19,000 credits, because you're the only one around, is just gone. Rip solo groups. I mean, alright, so I guess this does kind of... what the idea is, it's supposed to encourage group play. So now, if you and 2 of your buddies get together and all 3 of you pick up 2 missions and you go out and all 3 of you do each group member's 2 missions, then ultimately you're getting roughly the same amount of money that you would for completing 2 of those missions by yourself before. But now it's going to take you 3 times as long, but it might not take you 3... It's still going to take you longer because there's more traveling involved. Yes, you'll be able to complete the missions much quicker because there's 3 of you instead of 1 of you. But since you have to travel from one mission to the next, to the next, to the next, it's going to take you longer overall. I don't know. We'll have to see, since the base payout is higher than what it was before. If the base payout makes it much higher, like, then it's okay. But if it's not that much higher, it's, I don't know, man. Solo mission, solo missions just are not going to exist anymore. I don't know. I'm going to have to go back and delete my video on how to make money as a combat profession, because this just killed it. I'll have to update that at some point. But let's move on to let's do some final positive stuff. Added the following decoration type player event perks: AT-AT, ATST, Bantha, Fruit Stand, Gravestone, Meat Rack. Added the all venue type player event perks. Added the following game type player event perks: Jukebox, Capture the Flag, Lottery Droid, Scavenger Hunt Chests, Shuttle Beacon. And added the following personal type player event perks: Recruiters and Honor Guards. There's a lot of tools there to do events with. Like, I don't even know what some of these mean. Capture the Flag? Scavenger Hunt Chests? Like, I know what Shuttle Beacon. With a Shuttle Beacon, you can actually allow people to shuttle to your event, which is cool. But the rest of this, like, I'm not even sure what these do. We're going to have to find out. And we're definitely going to do a video on those. I want to play Capture the Flag. The Self-Powered Harvester Veteran Reward is now functional and available. Another veteran reward, the Self-Powered Harvester. A harvester that you don't have to add power to, and I believe can harvest any resource. Either that, or you choose when you get it what type of harvester it is. Added the ability to create and moderate custom chat rooms. I already did a video on how to do that using the Nova server before the publish went live. And the auto-joined general chat room no longer exists. I don't know. I post it in general sometimes. But players can opt to join the main chat room via the channel browser for a public galaxy-wide chat room. Alright, so it's not gone completely. It's just not joined by default. There is still a server-wide chat. It's just not called general, it's just called chat. And you have to go into the channel browser and join it on your own if you want to participate in it, which I think many people will. So that's it. Those are the patch notes. One thing that was not mentioned on here that I did already talk to a developer about and they confirmed is that the shuttle port bug should also be fixed. So you've probably realized lately that when you try to join or try to board a shuttle, it might tell you that the shuttle is not there even though it is there, and then sometimes you'll see it land and it'll just disappear right away. That should no longer happen. But other than that, that's it. So lots and lots of stuff. And that I only was reading the stuff that I highlighted, not all the other stuff. So if you want to read all the patch notes, the link to where I pulled all this from will be in the video description down below. I want to hear what you guys think about this, what you like, what you don't like, what you wish was added, what you want to do now that Publish 8 is live, if this has inspired you to do anything. And I want to say I've got a lot of interesting stuff coming in the near future. I've got a big thing I want to announce soon for SWGEU, my guild, but it's not quite ready yet. Soon. I remember saying in a previous video that when Publish 8 came out, I was going to make a few announcements. Well, Publish 8's out, baby, so get ready for some announcements. I don't know when, though. Soon, TM. But yeah. Anyway, thank you guys for watching this video. I know this is, like I said, was not a very exciting video, but one that needed to be made. And if you made it through it, congratulations. You listened to me talk for a very long time. But yeah, I just want to real quick just say a huge shout out to the developers of the project for their constant, continuous work on it, and putting up with all the crap that they put up with in the forums and people complaining about how long it takes. I mean, look, you have a group of people that are doing this in their free time for nothing. No, they're not being paid for this. They all have jobs, and every time when you come home from work or school or whatever you do, and you get on your computer and you sign into Galaxies and play, or you sign into whatever game you're playing and play, these guys aren't doing that. I mean, maybe they are, and that's why it takes as long as it takes, but you can't fault them for wanting to play in their free time. And then other times when they're not playing, they're working on this in their free time. So, you know, if it takes them another 4 years to finish the project, whatever. You all should just be lucky that the project exists in the first place. So thank you guys for your help. Those of us that understand what you are doing and what you're going through to make this project a reality, we appreciate it. And thank you for allowing me to have a YouTube channel based on it. So that's it for the Publish 8 patch notes. Stay tuned for some more videos. I still have to finish up Hero of Tatooine, and a lot of new and interesting things to test once the server comes back online. So unfortunately I work the rest of the day, Sunday and Monday, but I'll get to have a lot of fun time playing, and maybe we'll do some live streaming later on this week. Anyway, thank you guys for watching and listening. Mobius1 here, and I will see you next time.